Welcome to another free roundel tutorial. In this tutorial we will start by deinstalling a ceiling fan and we'll begin by turning it on. Next, I locate my breaker box and figure out which breaker turns off my light. I always lay down a drop cloth underneath the area where I'll be working. This job only requires a few simple tools, and a drill always comes in handy too. I'll first loosen the 3 screws that hold in the glass dome and then take the dome out. After that, I'll take out the light bulb. Next, I'll take out the 2 set screws to the metal cover dome up by the ceiling and then loosen the 2 slot screws without taking them out so I can turn the dome to take it off. The color-coded wiring to ceiling fans are, for the most part, quite simple. I'll begin by removing all of the wire nuts safely, knowing that my breaker is off. Next, I'll slip the metal cover dome back on and turn it so it holds into place. I'll drop down to the collar where the fan attaches to the shaft. I'll remove the 2 set screws and then I'll remove the Carter pin. After I take this Carter pin out, I'll lift up on the bottom of the fan and pull that brass pin out. Since I've already undone the wiring up top, the fan unit should slide right out, and it does. If your old fan still works like mine does, you might want to keep it. It's not a bad idea to put one up in the garage. Finally, I'll remove the metal dome from the top and take it off completely. All I have to do now is unscrew the screws that hold the bracket to the junction box in the ceiling. Once I remove that, that's it. My fan has been deinstalled. Remember to keep all the hardware to your fan if you think you or someone else could use it again. Some parts may be hard to come by if your fan is older. Well, my fan has been removed successfully, but it appears I have a bit of a problem. There's no junction box in the ceiling, so whoever installed this fan didn't do it properly. So now I've got to fix it. Unfortunately, I don't have access above the ceiling, but that won't be a problem if I use this nifty little brace and box kit for the installation of my junction box. For about 15 bucks, this kit is absolutely worth its weight in gold. If I measure the diameter of my box, I'll see it's about 4 inches. That will be the size of the hole I'll be cutting in the ceiling. But first I'll flip the box over and punch out the middle knockout with my screwdriver, and then I'll twist it off with my pliers. I want to stay as close to the center in the ceiling space, so I'll be right over the table. I'll pull the existing wires through my knockout opening and position my box where I want it to go. Then I'll trace the outer edge in pencil. I'll take a 1/2 inch wood drill bit and I'll drill a pilot hole along the inside of the perimeter of my circle, being careful to avoid the wires. This, without a doubt, is the messiest part of the job, so you might want to wear some goggles while cutting out the hole in the ceiling. I'll be using my jigsaw and I'll start cutting out at my pilot hole, following my line all the way around. As you can see, I'm cutting through slat board and plaster. Make real sure your wires are pushed up and out of the way of your saw blade. So now imagine you're up above the ceiling looking down at the hole I just cut out. I'll stick my hand through the hole, moving aside the insulation if need be to find the ceiling joists on either side. I find at times the joists to vary in distance between 15 to 16 inches. Now let's take a look at the kit. We'll first examine the bar. Notice that its irreducible length is about 13 3/4 inches, and one end can be lengthened by unscrewing it. There are 3 prongs on either end of the bar, centered above the legs. We need to get an idea of the distance between the ceiling joists. I would suggest measuring from one joist to one side of your circle cutout, and from the other joist to the other side of your circle cutout, and then just add 4 inches. You may figure out an easier way. By all means, feel free. Go ahead and set your bar to a distance about 1.5 inches less than the distance between the ceiling joists. This will give you enough room to maneuver the bar into place over the hole. Stick the bar up through the hole until it's above the ceiling. You'll want to position it so all four legs are down and resting on the ceiling between the joists. Maneuver the bar so it lines up dead center over your hole. Shove the prongs of the stationary end of the rod into the joist and then begin turning the rod to lengthen the other end. If you keep the rod stationary on all four legs, while turning it, it will continue to expand until it starts to dig its prongs into the other joist. When you feel it grab, continue tightening it until you can't turn it anymore. Well, everything looks good down here. One last thing I do is put a piece of blue painter's tape around the bar in the center of the hole. It will keep the collar bracket from moving around all over the bar. Make sure you can line up the 4 holes in the junction box with the 4 holes in the bracket. There are 2 slip holes for 2 slot screws, which you'll put into the bracket first so you can turn and lock the box into place before tightening it down. Before you install the box, flip it over and punch out one of the knockouts on either side of the center hole and remove it. Get a plug that fits the knockout opening. There are different size plugs and different size knockouts. You always want to plug the holes that you're not going to use. This little black connector comes with a kit and is made to hold the wires running into the box. This connector snaps in through the inside of the box and sticks out the back side of the box. There's always a special place in all new junction boxes for ground screws. Ground screws that come with the kit are green. I'll attach my ground screw to the box, leaving space enough for my wire. I'll strip the end of my green ground wire and then bend a hook in it by using my wire strippers. Once I've done this, I can attach it by hooking it around my green ground screw. I hook my wire so it runs clockwise. That way when I tighten my screw, it will stay nice and snug. Before I install my box, I've got to cut off more of the plastic Romex sheathing around my wires that are running out of the ceiling. Before I install my bracket, I'll screw in the 2 slot screws, leaving enough space so I can turn and lock my box into place. Before my box goes up into the ceiling, I've got to run my wires through the black wire connector. Then I can move the box into place, turn it, and tighten my 2 slot screws and then add 2 more screws. Ceiling fan installation is for the most part pretty basic and straightforward. There are numerous variations to parts, designs, and assembly procedures, but nothing too complicated. I like to take everything out of the box first and take inventory of all my parts. The first part I want to locate is a mounting bracket for my junction box, and I find it attached to the dome cover. So I'll take my drill and remove the 2 set screws on either side and then loosen the 2 slot screws. Then I'll turn it and then remove the bracket from the cover. With my mounting bracket free, I'll take my drill and mounting screws, find my mounting holes in my junction box, and attach my bracket, making sure all my wires are running through the center hole in my bracket. Next, I'll want to find the fan motor with the wiring coming out of the top. I'll take the short extension rod and the dome cover and run all the wires through them both. Notice the extension rod has a ball shape on one end. That end needs to go inside the dome cover like this. There's a collar at the top of the fan motor where the extension rod is inserted and attached with set screws and a brass pin. It's important to follow the directions given with any new fan. There could be important steps missed in the assembly process if you don't. Now I've got to assemble all the fan blades, and there are certain brackets and screws for doing this. This will take some time, but notice the special opening in the motor casing for the easy mounting of the blades to the motor. It's just big enough to accommodate my screwdriver. It would be a nightmare without it. Once my fan blades are all attached securely to the motor and correctly positioned on their brackets, I'm ready to hoist my fan and mount it to the ceiling bracket, which is screwed into the new junction box in the ceiling. The ball end of my extension rod fits nicely into the bracket housing, so my hands can be free to connect all my wires. As you can see in this photo, I've added a couple of shims under my ceiling bracket to level it off with the ceiling. Wiring a fan is pretty simple. First, take all the green ground wires. This includes any bare copper wires. Strip the ends like I showed you earlier and attach a wire nut big enough to accommodate the number and the size wires you have. If you don't know, it will tell you on the packaging the wire nuts came in. Twist the nut on until the wires start to braid. Once my wire nut is securely on, I like to wrap it in electrical tape to keep it in place. Make sure you follow the wiring instructions in the manual you are given for your fan. For this fan I'm installing, I connect all of my black power wires plus the blue wire. Finally, I connect all my white common wires together. After that, I'm ready to stuff them up carefully into the box and screw on the cover dome. At last, I can screw in my light bulb and put on my light fixture. In this case, it's just a simple dome. Next, install the pull chains if you have any, and once you have it all together, you're ready to turn the power back on. I'll flip the switch on the wall and test the light and the fan to see if everything is working properly, and it is. So there you have it. That completes my fan installation. Well, I'd like to think that I'm done, but I'm not really. I have some holes in the ceiling around my cover dome that I need to fix. Think of this as an extra. Part 4, ceiling repair. I start by mixing up some powdered Fix-All with water until I get a nice even paste. I like using this product because it hardens like rock. This isn't like drywall mud. It's much harder to sand, so be careful how you use it. After I apply my Fix-All by filling all the holes, I make sure I scrape off all the excess from the ceiling so it's nice and level. Once that dries, in about an hour, I'll come back and sand all the residue off around the base of the fixture, getting it as smooth as I can. Next, I'll mix up some powdered Fast Set 5 with water until I get a nice even paste. Fast Set is a fast setting drywall compound and can be sanded smooth soon after it's applied. I'll apply a thin layer on top of my Fix-All layer in order to blend in the smoothness with the rest of the ceiling. I've used Glidden's Gripper as my ceiling paint, so all I have to do is apply this and I'm done. Well, there you have it, folks. You're never really done until everything is fixed. This has been another free tutorial presented to you by Roundel. Thanks for watching.